Well, good afternoon, kind sir.
How are you doing?
Honestly, I'm exhausted. I'm just silly. I'm to the silly point, but that's okay. Uh, I got back from a trade show, and it's just been, I feel like I've been paddling under the water as fast as I can possibly paddle, and hoping that there's a clearing at some point that I can get on shore and lay down and sleep.
I know that feeling. Yeah, it was a great trade show, though. Getting to see
Yeah.
everybody in Vegas and catch up. I mean, it feels like forever since we were able to do that before the pandemic and everything. So that was great.
Oh, it really was. I got some much needed FaceTime with some people and some hugs with some others, and it was just it was really good. So I was glad that we went, and just glad to see so many people. It was great.
Yeah, it was.
But let's jump in a little bit. We've been talking about different things about automation. What to automate, what not to automate, and then the question is like, okay, now it's like, where do I look for all these pieces? How do I actually get started and get them going? So we're gonna talk about that thing a little bit. Here's really the question: how the heck do I get this automation thing working for me? I mean, honestly, that's the question. Um, but I want you to address something because we talked about this. Before we get into automation, there are a few things that you might want to consolidate in your business. So you want to talk about some of that, Carter, because I think that's really important that people have an idea of some of the things that they need to consolidate before they even start really talking about this automation thing.
Yeah, I mean, we can actually address them both at the same time. But the when it comes to consolidation, think about the areas in your business where you're constantly jumping between one tool and another tool and different screens on your computer and software that does one thing but it doesn't do something else, and so you need that software to go do that other thing, and uh, you need some other software to do a third thing, and so you're just constantly moving between them, wasting a lot of time jumping between them, wasting a lot of effort and time, just double entry and that kind of thing. So consolidation, really the goal of that is to bring multiple functions, multiple things that you spend time doing every day into one place, with the goal that by doing that, it'll save you time. Just bring it into one place. There's also some other advantages as you get when you consolidate. A lot of that is data related. When you have data silos, meaning different places that your data lives, and none of that data talks to one another and is aware of each other, a lot of times you end up not really being able to see the big picture about a customer in your business. So consolidating different functions about that one customer, like all of the communications about that customer, all of the financials about that customer, all of the past history and scheduling and things like that into about a customer into one place. You start to be able to see patterns. You're able to slice and dice your data better and get a much clearer picture of your ideal customer, your customer lifetime value, your those key metrics that are important to understand, that 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 give you the ability to make good decisions about your business and moving forward. So consolidation, that's really what you're thinking about, is how do I reduce the amount of time I'm jumping around in between things? You know, how do I bring more of the data into one place so that I have, the ability to see more deeply and clearly into my business and for those objectives. So that's really kind of what we're looking at there. Let's talk about um, automation just real quickly. The standard for automating, and we've talked about this in the previous Spark Lives that we've done. Anything that is a repetitive task, something that has to happen multiple times a day, multiple times an hour, the same thing over and over and over again without a lot of variation, without a lot of difference, every time it gets done, It just needs to get done, and it needs to happen over and over and over again. That is a great candidate for automation. So that's the framework that we use to think about automation when we talk to our clients, when we talk to people in office staff that are charged with doing various tasks every day. Okay, so we've covered the framework basically for how to think about it. Now let's talk about some specific things that you can consolidate, and part of the reason for doing that, right? The financial management tools, getting your customer data into or having the ability to do some of the financial things that you need to do, and the repetitive tasks, the rote stuff that has to happen over and over and over again. And I'm thinking of sending payment reminders, right, for late invoices. I'm thinking about requesting payments for customers that want to pay, with a credit card or want to pay online. Being able to just send them a link really quickly where they can pay their invoice online. Those are some great tools. Once you get into, we've talked lately about maintenance plans and building service contracts and agreements with customers where they pay for a regular occurring annual service, but they break up the payments over time to make it a little more affordable for them, to cash flow it a little bit more, but also to create customers that are really sticky. They stay in your business and don't go somewhere else looking for a competitor to do the work because they've already invested some of the capital needed for the next service call that you're going to perform for them this year. So maintenance plans are great. The financial aspect of that, if you're trying to do that manually, you're going to go crazy. Talk to us, because we have ways to be able to do that, and ways to be able to run a maintenance plan, a service agreement system for you. So, but it consolidates that information into one place where it's more actionable, a little bit easier to get in. We can talk about KPIs and stats. Having the ability to see at a glance different key performance indicators, KPIs, in your business to make good decisions. That's a huge thing. That's less about automation and more about consolidation and
right.
Visual, like being able to see into your data.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the communication channels and contact lists. But before we do, I wanted to thank Lee and Renee for giving us a thumbs up, a like. Thank you very much. We always appreciate that. If any of the rest of you are so inclined to do so, please do. And then jump into the contact list. And I know that's one thing that you do quite a bit with databases and those kind of things. But then the communication channels, to me, is very intriguing.
Yeah. So let's just talk about contact lists really quickly, because the typical, this is the way it happens in most businesses. And you can comment in the comment section if this is something that you've done before, if you feel this pain, because usually once or twice a year, a company will go to their main system, whatever that may be, QuickBooks, whatever the place of record is for all of their customer information, whatever database you're using. You'll go to that tool and you'll do this massive export of all of your customers, right? And then you need to do something with that. You've got your customer, your CSV list or your Excel spreadsheet. And now you need to clean that list up a little bit. You need to get it organized and in a format that you can then import it into some other system. And then once it's in that system, you're going to plan to do something with that list, right? There's no point in exporting the list unless you're planning to import it somewhere so that you can do something that you couldn't do in the software you exported it from, right? So that's the logic, and it's painful, and it sometimes takes. I mean, the larger your company, this is a data operation that can take a week. Certainly 2 days of someone's time to sit there and clean up a list, and it has to happen once or twice a year. So that's a real time suck. But then, having the data that you need to be able to do what you're trying to do, whether it's send a mass email out or, run reports on finances, whatever it may be. So I love the idea of being able to have your list live in a place where it's easy to segment, easy to just run reports that give you, that do a lot of that that data cleanup stuff for you just by the way that you run your list. And if you're using software on a regular basis, that you're keeping that list clean and the activity with that customer is tied to that list, then you can really get some good information out of your list. And maybe even, I mean, if you've done a good job of consolidating and you're using a tool that gives you the ability to do things with a master customer list, maybe you don't even need to export it and import it into something else. You can just use the tools that you're using that you've consolidated into to be able to run those campaigns or do those communications or see the financial information that you're trying to understand.
No, I think that's really, really good. Um, and let's talk about communications channels. I know that's a big one for me because I see a lot of people, especially in the office staff, that are struggling. They're like, "Oh my gosh, we have this, we have this, we have this, we have this. I've got all these tabs open, and I'm jumping from here to there to yon, and the notifications are going off, and I really want to turn them off, but I've turned them off, I'll miss, and it's just like ah."
Yeah, we just did our session at this conference that we were at, and we were talking about automation, consolidation, and those kinds of things. And we started talking about how frustrating it is to have to manage 18 different communication channels and all day long be jumping back and forth. And you asked people to raise their hand if that described them or if they were familiar with that pain. And I don't think a single hand in that place didn't go up. I mean, everybody said, yes, I hate that. I mean, it's just crazy what we have to do to keep track of all our customer communications. So this is a great prime example of a way that you can consolidate. In marketing, we call this, we call it omni-channel marketing. So omni-channel just basically means I need to be everywhere, right? I need to be omnipresent everywhere in every channel that my customers use. But I want to be able to manage all of those disparate conversations and places of communication, those channels, in one view, in one place where all day long I'm just in one browser tab and I'm literally communicating via text, email, phone call, Google My Business Messenger, Facebook Messenger, Instagram Messenger, and the list goes on. So, being an email, whatever, being able to use one view to communicate with a customer in any way that they want to communicate, using visual methods, using text, using audio methods, whatever it may be. So that's like a holy grail thing. And that alone can save you so much time and money. And the staff in your office really appreciates being able to have a tool like that that's that powerful. It just saves them so much time and so much headache. So we just, all of the clients that we're putting into our solution for that omni-channel marketing to consolidate that, they're really appreciating it and enjoying it.
Yeah, they really, really are. And I'm gonna jump around a minute because I'm gonna go back to KPIs and stats because I know while this may not be an automation thing, the automation part to me is that it brings all the stuff together into a dashboard where you can see all your financials. You can see the KPIs. You can set what's important to you. You can see those. And I've had several people ask me this question, so I wanted to answer it. Why is that important? Why in the world is it important to know all these doggone KPIs? And those that really know their numbers, I know Lee Roth is on here. He's a guy that really knows his numbers. And so he and I've talked a lot about this. But there's just a lot of people that say, well, okay, it may be important, but I don't know what it's important for. So it's not just about, how much money you've received, how much money you make, all your profit, but it really is about decision making. Because a lot of times, if you know what your website's doing, what your ads are doing, what every single thing that you are in at the moment and what you're paying for is actually doing, then all of a sudden you can start making some better decisions. And then it also allows you a way to determine if you're looking at the correct KPIs for your business. And one of the things that I'll tell you, revenue is great. I have to be careful here because I use analogies that aren't aren't always accepted into the what do you call it, like where both male and females reside. So mixed company, that's what I'm
Okay.
So I'll be careful about this, but revenue is something you can brag about. Oh, I made $6 billion, but if it costs you 7 billion to make 6 billion, then you're not very profitable. In fact, you're going backwards. So the real KPI there is profit. What's your profit? What's your profit margin? If you've got a big business and your profit margin is 1%. I mean, Amazon is a perfect example. They have a very low profit margin, according to the things I've read, probably more so than they did in the beginning. But that's the way they started, just making a little bit of profit on a lot of stuff, and they made a lot of money. Other people have different models that they make a lot of profit on smaller stuff. So, profit it's just how you look at profit. And I remember way back in the day, a lot of people didn't invest in Amazon because they thought their profit model was really, really off because of the 1-2% margin. They just didn't think they would be able to survive, and you can kind of see them today. So it really kind of helps you know, is the KPI I'm looking at today the one that I should be looking at? Is there something else that might be better? And it just gives you a benchmark, if you will, to be able to tell those things about your business. And when you know those things, it also lets you experiment with some other stuff, which I think is another thing that we don't do enough as companies. We don't risk and experiment with some things that we probably should be doing just to see if it's working, if it's modality is going to work better than other things that we have. So experimentation is really important. In marketing, especially, and if you can experiment and then follow those KPIs and know those experiments are working or not, it's really a great way to kind of figure out, do you want to do more of that or less? Just a good way to do it. I also want to thank Terry, Mitchell, Linda, and Jerry. Thank you very much. We appreciate the love that you're giving us today. That's great. And now we're going to get to the question. You ready for the big question?
I'm ready.
How do we get it moving in our business, Carter? What do we need to do?
Yeah. So let's assume that at this point you've looked at our framework of what should I consolidate? Like, what are the things that keep me running around like a chicken with my head cut off all day long, and how that are good candidates for consolidation. And then what can I automate? What are the things that I have to do over and over and over again, just repetitive tasks that happen the same way every time they happen, and just need to get off my plate and have something else or someone else take care of it for me. That's a great candidate for automation. So let's say that you've already done those um, assessments, and then let's talk about how do you get that moving. So then it's about locating and finding the right tool or tools, the things that help bring it down and consolidate. Um, there's some great ones out there. Okay, there's some good solutions that bring things into a single, consolidate and automate. Let's talk about really quickly. One of the big ones in the service world is Service Titan. Um, you can use a tool like that that's just got this massive reputation, and it's a huge software suite for getting all of your customer information in one place, all of the history for that customer, all the communication, as well as the financial records. And there's some great automation that can happen with some of their additional add-on modules for communications and marketing. It's expensive. It's a beast to learn how to program it and make it work, and takes a lot of commitment and a lot of time in order to get that happening for you. Most of the big businesses that I've seen that have used it well, I mean, like really gotten the value out of it, almost have a full-time employee that does nothing but manage their Service Titan installation and their account, and builds a lot of those automations and handles those things for the entire organization, so that nothing breaks, everything continues to work. And it really requires that sort of oversight because it's just a massive beast. But that is a valid way of going. And we have people on this call that use Service Titan and are getting a lot of good value out of it. I wouldn't say any of them are using it to the extent that it can be used, that I've seen it used in HVAC and plumbing with, $50 million companies. But that's, I mean, it'll work for companies that size. So if it'll work for them, you can find some value in it for you if you're a smaller company. So,
so I'm going to back up
okay.
because Service Titan's great, but here's what I see almost all the time is people are piecemealing. They're just, and there's nothing wrong with that either, by the way, but they've got one app that does this, and they have another app that does that, then they go to another app that does this other thing, and then their field service software may actually do one or two things, and they're kind of jumping all over the place, but they're making it work. It's kind of like what my dad used to say: chewing gum and twine. You just get it all together and make it work. And I tell people there's not anything wrong with that. If you can get chewing gum and twine and get it all together and it works for you and you feel like it's of good value and it's not jumping from one to the other, you don't think it's taking that much time and doing any damage to your business, then yeah, go for it. So I mean, that's just it.
And it could be that you don't find a solution that's right for you at a price that you want to pay that consolidates all of the things that you want to consolidate or automates all of the things that you want to automate. But still, if you can go from 14 things down to 7 things, then you've cut a lot of your daily waste in terms of time and money, and consolidated and effectively automated quite a number of things, the biggest pain points, let's say. And that's a great way to prioritize when you think about what should we consolidate? What is the biggest pain in the butt that we need to consolidate? What's the one thing that we just hate to have to do repetitively over and over again that we would like to find a way to automate? And then start there and see if you can find solutions that identify that. That's a great point. Yeah, and you're right. I skipped over that. Moving on to talk about Service Titan, which is more of an all-in-one solution, a very expensive all-in-one kind of platform. But there's a middle ground too, and that may mean that you have identified a solution for your field management software that you keep all your clients in, and your finances, and your jobs, and your estimates, and invoicing, and you run your trucks and dispatch and everything, calendars and all of that, but it doesn't do a very good job of the communication side of the automation, and it doesn't help you consolidate all of the different places and channels where you communicate. And that's really the reason that we built Customer Engine, was to be able to report better on KPIs for your marketing, but then consolidate some of that communication into one place to be able to manage customer communications across multiple channels in one place, and then be able to automate specific things that need to happen in terms of communication that you're not getting out of your field management software. And it's really a nice kind of dovetail, so you don't have to abandon that system and move into something like Service Titan that does it all for that does all of those things. You can still keep that system, but then augment it with one solution instead of many different ones, and get a lot more bang for the buck that way.
Yeah, and so Customer Engine kind of does that, what you're talking about. What I like about it, and this is just me, and I'm going to ask you a question on Spark Live that I've never asked you before, because I don't know the answer to it, but I'd like to know what the answer is. So I know, because Spark Customer Engine, we have another thing called the Spark Review Engine, so I try to mess that up a lot. But the Customer Engine, it works with pretty much any field service software, correct?
Yeah, it can, and because of what we're doing essentially is eliminating that double entry pain, and allowing you to continue using whatever it is you're using, but then get the data out of that and into Customer Engine to take specific actions on it, and do that without having to copy and paste data from one screen into another screen, and spending the time doing that. So
that's not my question.
Okay, sorry.
Here's my question. Because it works across with many field service software, if I'm in one field service software and then I move to another field service software, is there anything that I have to do to basically make customer engine work, or is it just seamless when it moves from one to the other?
There is a small setup that has to happen when you move into another, uh, from one field service management software into another one. So if you went from, let's say, Smart Service to Service Pal, or from Service Pal to WorkIs, or one of the other ones that are out there that people use. But it's a quick call to us. I mean, we're not a software company, we're a service company, right?
Mhm.
I mean, we're a marketing service company. And so our goal is not to provide software for you to have to figure out how to do it all yourself and set it up. Our goal is to be able to, provide a service for those things that the customer engine is built for, and, take care of that. So, uh, just a call to our office and letting us know, hey, we're moving on this date. We're planning to move from our old system into the new system, and we want to make that cut. We want to make that switch over. Then we can be ready to go and wire up things in the back end, so that continues to seamlessly work for you.
But the automation that you started in the first one is still continuing in customer engine, even though you
Absolutely.
switched over. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
automation, but also the programs that we manage, things
everything.
like,
Nothing changes in customer engine. We
right.
just change out the front end. That's what I thought, but I wanted to double check that. So we had some comments that came in. I just want to recognize that. This is when we were talking about some risk. Jerry was talking about risk is involved in moving forward. I think that that's true. There's a great book, Failing Forward. Who's the author again? My
It's
brain. John
John
Maxwell. As soon
Maxwell.
as
Yeah.
I said I don't know, I knew. John Maxwell. I hope none of y'all are getting old, because I feel like my brain sometimes just has these freeze methodologies. But it's a great book. It talks about you're never moving forward if you're not failing, and there's so many of us that go through times and issues of failure. I mean, we just failed tremendously. But I can tell you, every failure we've had at Spark Marketer, we wouldn't be where we are. I was thinking about that the other day. We would not be where we are had we not had some of the massive greater failures
Oh,
that
we've no
we've done
question.
and tried.
We have failed more often than we have succeeded, but our successes would not be possible had we not failed, and failed hard,
Yeah,
in trying some really big things. So no question, the failures is what, I mean, that's the solid ground you build on towards success. And you may fall down, but you just keep learning and you keep getting back up and you keep moving forward. When you're driven by a desire to do something, and you're resourceful in trying to figure out how to do it, then you're not afraid of failure. Or you
yeah,
may not enjoy it. Nobody ever enjoys failing. We don't set out to fail, we set out to succeed. But when we fail, we can quickly reframe that as, okay, I have some things I need to learn here, and if I can learn them, like really learn them, um, as an organization and as an individual, then we're that much closer to knowing how to do what we're trying to do.
yeah. No, I totally agree. And I love this, Terry. I don't know very many people who have not felt paralysis by analysis at some point in their lives. Um, one of the things that I learned just a long time ago is make a decision, because you can always change your mind. I think that's one of the things. To me, there's a difference between making a decision and then making a commitment. I made a commitment to my wife that no matter what happens, I'm going to stay married to her. And I uphold that commitment because I'm committed to that relationship. But I make decisions all the time that, yeah, I'm going to try this. I'm going to see how it goes. And yeah, I'm committed to a certain point, but if I see it going downhill, I'm going to cut bait and go try something else. I mean, a decision is not something that you can't change. That's one of the greatest things about decisions as opposed to commitments. That does not mean that I think, commitments aren't important. I do. I just think there's a different, To me, when we're doing marketing and making some marketing moves, we're making decisions that we're going to try some things and test some things out and look at the data. If the data doesn't bear out, then we're going to make different decisions. That's one thing. Then, people think if I'm going to go into Google Ads, by golly, I'm going to commit to it and I'm never going to give it up. And I'm like, no, don't do that. That's not what we need to do. That's not what we commit to. You commit to your business, you commit to your wife. There are things you commit to. But when it comes to marketing, make decisions and understand that you can move forward in that, because if it's not bearing fruit, hey, we can make another decision. And
It's a great way to look at it.
yeah, and that's a great thing to know. And then, Jerry, I love this. Many cards that win the Daytona 500 also have duct tape. Well, if they've got chewing gum and twine, then we're in good shape. It's just awesome. So that's just great. So I think the thing to really go here is whatever you do, you really need to look at some of these tools and some of the things in order to really help you just find time and money. And who doesn't want to find time and money in things? I mean, if you can find a tool that can replace a half a person in your business, that's a lot of money. I mean, that's a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of money that you put forward. If you're that person that it's going to replace and it actually frees you up to do other things, I mean, how great is that? So, I think that's the message to me is if you're not going to try Customer Engine, if you don't want to do Service Titan, try something. Find something to try to see if it is what can help you. And if you've got something that's working for you, great. Keep doing it. If you ever need to move into something bigger or something that's more consolidated, it doesn't hurt to try. I mean, that's just it. Anything else?
No, that's it. I like how this kind of took a turn at the end toward a more philosophical view of business. I mean, that's the worst thing you can do is just assume, and many of us in business do this, that we've accepted a certain amount of pain in our lives the moment we decided to be business owners. And that's true. I mean, we did. We kind of signed up for a second helping of suffering sometimes when we decided to run the business and not just work in one. The buck stops here, the pressure of that, all of that. But the moment you decide that this is as good as it gets, that the pain that I'm experiencing in my business right now is just the way it is the moment that maybe you've just kind of laid down and decided that you don't deserve relief from some of the things that you don't enjoy doing in your own business. And there are some great solutions. Keep looking. If you haven't found the thing yet that makes your life better, the thing that you can't wait to tell other business owners about because how much it's impacted and changed the enjoyment you get out of running your own business, keep looking and keep trying, because there's some amazing things available to business owners to help them overcome or step out of the stuff that they can't stand doing and turn it over effectively and affordably to people and systems that can do it for you.
Yeah, I think that's really good. So, man, we so appreciate all of y'all. So glad we got to see a bunch of you at NCSG. And just remember, Spark Live can now be found as a podcast on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, or your favorite podcast player. It's always fun. And next week, so I'm gonna ask you before I do this. So, what if I challenged you next week to do a demo of the Customer Engine on the live? Could you do that?
I don't know. I'm certainly going to look and see what would be involved in doing that. The problem in demoing it is that it would require us to do it with someone's live data, and I just don't know about putting that up live without permission or even with permission, because it can have sensitive customer information on the screen. But let me think about how we might be able to do that. If not next week, then at some point soon.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be interesting, just to see it, or maybe we can do invite everybody to a closed webinar or something, maybe
Yeah.
something like that. See, this is what we talk about on the live, because I just thought I'd do that before I said, okay, next week we're going to talk about the state of local search in 2022. It's going to be fun. It's going to be Carter and a guest, so that will be fun. I am going to be off watching my granddaughter play volleyball for the first time. So, not her first time, my first time watching her. So we're going to be in Kansas City next week doing that. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Thanks as always for being here. Again, we appreciate you, and we'll see you next week. Talk
Bye,
to you
everyone.
later.